Our first film is Color of Night, and what a violent mess this is. Recycling every movie cliche about psychotherapy and the shrinks who administer it. You know the cliches. Shrinks are the really sick ones, and their patients are more dangerous than so-called regular people who don't seek medical help. Bruce Willis plays a distraught psychologist who moves to California, land of the really screwed up, where he joins a therapy group led by a colleague friend. The friend is murdered, presumably by one of the group members. Detective Reuben Blades investigates.
And you sat in one of these sessions, right?
Yes, I did.
So who did it? Hey! Anderson! Knock! Don't come into my office like that, bro. Hey!
I think Blades needs to be in therapy. Characters in the group are all overwritten and overacted. The picture ultimately turns into a standard chase film, and along the way we get scenes of repeated, twisted violence that are thoroughly unpleasant. Thumbs down from me on Color of Night.
Well, to coin a phrase from me, thumbs way down. Way down. This movie is a complete mess.
Yeah, I didn't like the picture from the violence where you see a guy with a knife. I mean, it's so unpleasant. I mean, that's what I don't get. And then the psychotherapy. I mean, can't they grow up a little bit? No. This is really trashing the whole world.
It's not a group therapy session. It's, you know, it's like a zoo.
You know what it is? It's a bunch of actors who are getting their first break. A lot of these are people I haven't seen before, and they're going way over the top.
Those actors actually are like Brad Dourif. They're very experienced, but they didn't use a lot of restraint.
No.
Filled me with sadness and loathing. It's named Wolf Creek, and it's a despicable exercise in the torture and mutilation of helpless women. People might ask, well, how come I could give a thumbs up to Devil's Rejects, but not to this?
Yeah.
It's because I think any reasonable person looking at Devil's Rejects sees a film.
Yeah.
A film with a purpose, with performances, with a pattern behind it, with artistry in it. It's a horror film. Horror films are okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even violent horror films are okay. Wolf Creek is not in that category. You can tell. I mean, there's just kind of, I have a meter. And at one point during this movie, I just said, why am I here?
It's just mean-spirited.
Yes, it is.
And ugly, and it's even more offensive because it has this kind of pretension about it, like, oh no, this is an arty look at things, and it has a certain pace to it. And I agree with you. It's just an ugly film.
You're right.
This is a very silly movie with herky-jerky special effects and a dopey story about an anti-aging cosmetic that turns your face to stone. Sharon Stone, as a matter of fact. Now, Catwoman is directed with far too much style, or attempt at style, and almost no substance by this guy, Titoff, whose background is in visual effects. This is barely a film. It's more like a music video / TV commercial / computer game. Mary gives one of her worst performances since Baps, but it's not really her fault. She's saddled with an inconsistent character who is boring by day and not really menacing at night. Catwoman keeps saying she's half good, half bad, but we never see any evil leanings, really. She just puts on the leather and the lip gloss, cracks the whip a few times, and makes some really bad puns. This is a terrible movie.
There are 3 good things in it.
Okay.
Halle Berry's face, Halle Berry's body, and Halle Berry's costumes.
Okay.
Those are first rate. Everything else in this movie is unbelievably bad. This is a really bad movie.
Can you believe it?
Our first film is Broken Arrow, and this is an action picture that's simply a lot of fun most of the way, even though it doesn't add up to much. Not a ringing endorsement, but I liked it.
I didn't like it, Gene. In fact, I was quite disappointed in it, and you put your finger on some of the things I didn't like. It goes on too long.
Yes.
It's just one special effect after another, and it's boring because the story is not interesting, and the characters are not sharply drawn, and Travolta does not make a convincing villain.
He's a sweet guy.
He is.
And that's why he's a star. It doesn't work. You know, as you say this, I don't think I've ever done this on this show in 20 years, but I'm going to twist my thumb. I'm going to go just like this, because...
I talked you into it? Up there is a craft of action pictures that's up in this level. This movie just doesn't quite...
I'm changing my opinion now. Do me one... No,
I'm amazed.
I know you're amazed. Do me one favor.
Yeah.
Look in the camera and say, I was wrong about Cop and a Half. It wasn't a very good movie. Burt Reynolds.
No, I won't do that.
What?
No, I won't do that. Listen, I saw things in Cop and a Half that I admired.
That no one else did.
Okay, well, in any event, you've done a very good thing, and I've also done a good thing, too, by sticking to my gun.
There isn't too much to say about Good Burger other than it isn't very funny. I don't see why one of the kids couldn't be smart. That would set up a whole nother set of jokes, I think. As written, however, I strongly recommend skipping Good Burger.
Our next movie is not only the first feature in a long time, starring television's top star, Bill Cosby, but it is also one of the worst movies of the year. In fact, I think I could just take my little mental editor and take out the words "one of" and just call it the worst movie of the year, because it's really such a cynical exercise. And don't take even my word for it. Bill Cosby himself has gone on talk shows to denounce this film. The movie stars Cosby as a former CIA agent who is now a millionaire San Francisco restaurant owner when he's called out of retirement to battle an evil villainous plot to conquer the world by attacking her enemies with trained small creatures like frogs, squirrels, and rainbow trout. Cosby knows he's in trouble when hit...
Big door.
And no matter what he fires at it, the door doesn't go down. How funny. The door is still there. How hilarious. How highly, highly humorous. Maybe at some point there was an original inspiration for a good comedy here. I don't know. They certainly were not reluctant to spend a lot of money looking ridiculous in this movie, and sometimes that works, but not this time. The whole movie is a mess, and even though Cosby has disowned it, he cannot escape all the blame. I don't think so. In one scene, his 20-year-old daughter brings home a 66-year-old man that she wants to marry. Cosby is appalled. This guy is robbing the cradle. What does he do? He calls for a sandwich and a Coke. And then he holds the Coke bottle prominently next to his face for the rest of the scene. First it says Coca-Cola, then the next shot it says Coke, in case you missed the point. Who released this movie? Columbia. Who owns Columbia? Coca-Cola. What is Coca-Cola doing with this movie? They have a lot of products in this movie, Gene, that you can get a tie-in where you can get the product in connection with buying a ticket for the movie. I think that that is an all-time low. Bill Cosby, the richest man in show business, $67.5 million income last year, reduced to holding a Coca-Cola bottle next to his face in order to get a picture made at Columbia. He ought to be ashamed of himself.
Boy, you're upset. And you know I am too. No, I am too, because this man can be funny.
Yes.
All right, you said he's prostituted himself. I say the fact is he's disappointed his legion of fans. There will be tons of people who will go to this movie. You know, if they've seen him in Uptown Saturday Night or Let's Do It Again with Sidney Poitier years ago, he was funny. Boy, if they go, well, they feel ripped off. It'll be like, you know, getting some of his Jell-O products that he sells and finding out that there's nothing in the box. There's nothing in the can here.
That's right. Cosby owes it to himself.
The character looks more like RoboCop. Call him Robo-Judge, as he convicts and punishes street criminals on the spot. Stallone is almost laughably pompous in the role.
Code 310, illegal possession of assault weapons, 5 years. Code 457, resisting arrest, 20 years. And code 3613, the first-degree murder, a street judge. I guess life. Death. Court's adjourned.
I wanted to laugh at Stallone's seriousness and his stentorian voice. He can be such a quirky, charismatic presence on film. I wish he'd give up playing the action hero all the time.
Well, I didn't like the movie either.
Yeah.
But I don't agree with what you said about Stallone. I think he's in on the joke. He's funny. It's not stentorian. It's not pompous. It's humorous. He is playing it over the top in a very deliberate and calculated way.
It's a comic book character, and it's
a comic performance.
Roger, there are times when I wasn't laughing at it. There was maybe 1 or 2 lines of dialogue where I thought there was a joke going on.
Well, I didn't laugh either, but I don't think that he was pompous or stentorian. I think he was trying for a laugh, and he knew it was funny. I mean, you're kind of indicating he wasn't smart enough to know what he was doing.
I'm saying that he was not in control of the way he comes across on screen. I don't think he realizes how off-putting this pose of him, this Rambo extension that he's trapped himself into. I think he's really limiting himself as a talent.
Well, I thought he was okay. I felt basically the story was a mess. The supporting character, especially the sidekick, didn't work at all.
Villain's boring.
There were the problems. Our next movie is a comedy named My Stepmother is an Alien, and it stars Dan Aykroyd as a scientist who harnesses the power of lightning. And that's what they're always doing in the movies. They're always harnessing the power of lightning, one of those great catchphrases.
And our next film is Home Alone 3. Boy, has this franchise ever run out of gas. Even the star, Macaulay Culkin, is gone. But if his cute little self were in this picture, it wouldn't have made any difference. Home Alone 3 is a stupid slapstick piece of juvenilia as a suburban Chicago kid is home alone, defending himself against constant attack by 4 thugs trying to recover a stolen Air Force computer chip that has mistakenly wound up in his possession. And that goes on and on to the point of nausea. If this movie had a theme song, it would be "Dumbbells Keep Falling on My Head." The story makes no sense. I feel for every family that's going to be suckered into seeing Home Alone 3.
Now, this is going to astound you, but I'm giving the movie thumbs up.
It does astound me. Are you okay?
Better than you were the day that you liked Starship Troopers.
Okay. Oh, no.
I'll tell you why I like the
exciting.
movie. This movie empowers little kids. This is the one where they finally got it right. I liked it better than the other two.
Than the original Home Alone?
Little kids love the idea that they can somehow affect the outcome, that they can have power over grown-ups.
That's
they can defend
one.
themselves and be smart and think about things.
He hammers
and
thugs
in this
in the
movie,
first
it's
one.
not as violent as the second one. The kid is charming. He really is a good little actor. And the plot is smarter than the other
completely
movies.
disagree. I thought the kid was generic mop top, and I thought that the Home
come
Alone...
on, that kid?
Yes.
Come on.
Yeah. There are only 2 kids.
He's very good.
Culkin's better. And the other thing is, it's the same plot as the first one, only more bumps to the head.
The second, they're all the same plot.
But you just said that this one empowers him more than the other one. Absolutely not
That's
true.
the secret of the. That's why kids love these movies, because they love the fantasy that they have power.
But it's overdone. Overkill here.
Not for
Overkill.
Not for
you.
Okay.
And when I saw She's Out of Control, I became so depressed I actually thought about quitting my job as a film critic, feeling as though the movies had abandoned me, because what I was seeing there really wasn't a movie. It was some sort of strange concoction of really just someone who didn't understand what movies are all about. Fortunately, however, I would see the movie Say Anything later in the same day, and all is right with the world. I'm still on the job.
You know, people probably think you're joking when you said that you were really thinking of quitting your job. But I know what you felt, because I sat there and I thought, life is precious, life is short, and the idiots who made this film are taking 2 hours of my life and robbing it from me in order to give me less than nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, a movie like this is a crime, because what it does is it robs life from people by requiring them to spend 2 hours having such a terrible experience happen to them. Now, Jean-Luc Godard, the great French director, once said, the way to criticize a movie is to make another movie, and you put your finger right on it, because the next movie we saw the same day was Say Anything, also about a father, also about his daughter.
Right.
Same kind of basic situation, but here's a trash movie and here's a great movie.
It's really bad. I always wonder when I'm in a bad, I don't know if you have this reaction, when I'm in a bad movie in a theater, aren't you surprised that people stay?
I think maybe they've spent their money.
But
they
what
don't have
about
any place to go for 2 hours.
Yes, but I would say this, when you talk about robbing your life, see, my thing I've always wanted to say to people, I've always wanted to stand up in the middle of a bad movie in a theater and say, aren't your lives worth more for 2 hours than even say $7 in New York City? $3.50 an hour. That's below the minimum wage, the new minimum wage. I mean, get out and live.
Go stand in the lobby and talk.
Yeah.
You know? Oscar Brotman, a Chicago film exhibitor, once told me many years ago, he said there's a rule. He said, if nothing has happened by the end of the first reel, nothing is going to happen.
Yeah.
You know? And when I saw this movie, I knew that after the first minute, I knew that nothing was going to happen.
Basic errors. You know, a bad adult film is one thing, but somehow a bad children's film is even worse. Admit it. Because you sit there, even if you're a critic paid to sit there, you sit there thinking, what am I doing with my life watching this picture? And Return to Oz was such a lousy film that I'll always resent that it stole 2 hours of my life. When I'm dying, I want you to know, if you're at my funeral, I want you to know I'll be there thinking, I could have lived 2 hours longer, or happier.
I'll say a few words over your grave. He would have had 2 hours more happiness if it hadn't been for Return to Oz.
Thank you very much. This was supposed to be the film that was more true to the Oz book. But they made changes from the book it was based on, and they still made a trashy picture, a trashy-looking film with none of the joys of the classic Judy Garland Oz film.